During my engagement party, a woman I had never seen before walked in, made eye contact with me like she'd been searching for me all night, and handed me a manila envelope. No smile, no greeting, no congratulations, just my name written across the front in blue ink. Before I could say a single word, she turned around and walked right back out like she just dropped something dangerous into my hands and didn't want to be standing there when it went off. I stood there, frozen, with 70 guests in the room, a guitarist playing in the corner, champagne flutes clinking, my mother laughing at something my aunt said. And suddenly, everything felt like it was happening underwater. My best friend Tyler leaned in and whispered, "Who was that?" I shook my head because I genuinely had no idea. I looked down at the envelope again. My name. Nothing else. No return address, no note, no explanation. I opened it, and my heart didn't just sink, it split, because inside wasn't a letter. It was evidence. Screenshots, bank statements, photos, the kind of stuff you don't collect unless you're building a case. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. And then I heard my fiancé's voice behind me. "Connor? What's wrong?" I turned, held the stack out without saying a single word, and watched the color drain from her face. She took one look and started crying. Her eyes filled so fast it was like her body had been waiting for this moment. People around us noticed. Conversation softened. Heads turned. And in that exact second, with everyone watching us, I realized something that still makes my stomach tighten even now. If I reacted the wrong way, I would be the villain of my own engagement party. So I didn't react. I just walked away. That night, her friends started texting me. "What have you done? You humiliated her. You're overreacting. She made one mistake." One mistake. Right. My name is Connor. I'm 31 years old, and I'm a civil engineer. I design bridges. The irony is, I didn't see the one collapsing right under my feet. I work for a mid-sized firm in Pennsylvania. My job is the kind of job people don't really understand until they need you. Bridges, roadways, stormwater systems, the stuff that keeps the world from falling apart. It pays well, it's stable. I've always taken pride in being dependable. Lauren used to joke that I was painfully responsible. She was the opposite, in the way that feels exciting when you're in love. Lauren was a marketing coordinator at a tech startup. She had energy, social intelligence. She could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with 5 new friends and someone offering her a job. Everyone loved her. My family loved her, my mom loved her, and I loved her, in a quiet, serious way. The kind of love where you start building your future without even realizing you're doing it. We've been together 4 years. We lived together for 2. We had routines. Sunday grocery runs, taco nights, her playlists in the car, my coffee always waiting for her when she woke up. Late September, I proposed at her favorite lakeside park. I rented a small boat, hid a photographer, picked the exact time when the sun hits the water like it's trying to show off. When I got down on one knee, Lauren cried so hard she couldn't speak. I cried too. Her mom cried when we told her later that night. It felt like the start of everything. We scheduled the engagement party for early December. A boutique event space downtown, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, warm amber lighting, a small stage area where a guitarist played acoustic covers. Lauren handled most of the planning because she liked it. Spreadsheets, vendor calls, seating charts. I helped with the guest list, the catering options, and the bar selection. We invited about 70 people, friends from college, coworkers, family. It was supposed to be the beginning of the rest of our lives. And it was. Just not the way I thought. The party was on a Saturday night. I remember the date because it was December 7th, exactly 3 months after the proposal. Lauren wore this navy dress that made her look like she belonged in a magazine. Her hair was done the way I liked, loosely curled. And she kept touching the ring like she still couldn't believe it. I wore a charcoal suit my brother helped me pick out. Tyler made a joke about me looking like I was about to give a TED Talk on tax brackets. Everything felt warm. Right. Real. We spent the first hour greeting guests, taking photos and laughing at toasts that hadn't even started yet. My mom kept pulling me aside to introduce me to distant relatives I'd forgotten existed. Lauren's best friend, Kimberly, kept making jokes about wedding dress shopping. We were floating. Then, around 7:45 p.m., I was near the bar talking to Tyler about a project deadline when the front door opened. A woman walked in. Late 20s, maybe. Dark hair pulled back in a tight ponytail, jeans, black coat. She didn't look dressed for an engagement party. She looked like someone who had debated turning around 100 times before finally stepping inside. Her hands were shaking. She scanned the room, found me, and walked straight over. Tyler stopped mid-sentence. I watched her approach, confused, trying to place her face. Was she someone's plus one? Someone from work? Someone from Lauren's life I somehow hadn't met? She stopped about 3 feet away and held out a manila envelope. "Connor?" she asked, voice quiet but steady. I nodded. "You need to see this," she said. And before I could ask who she was, or why she was here, or what the envelope was about, she pressed it into my hands, turned around, and walked out. Fast, like she was afraid she might change her mind. People started noticing. You can feel when a room shifts, when curiosity starts spreading like smoke. I stood there holding the envelope like it had weight. Tyler leaned in again. "Dude, what is that?" I looked down. My name was written on the front in blue ink. No explanation. I opened it. Inside were printed screenshots, text messages, bank statements, and photos, all neatly organized like someone had taken the time to make sure I couldn't deny what I was seeing. The first page was a text conversation between Lauren and someone saved in her phone as A. Just the letter. The messages went back months. April, May, June, and they weren't flirty. They were explicit. Not vague, not suggestive, explicit. Plans to meet, details, things they'd done, things they wanted to do again. Words I'd never heard Lauren use with me. My stomach dropped so hard it felt physical, like gravity suddenly got stronger. The second page was a bank statement, Lauren's name at the top. Charges to a hotel, the Grand View, 20 minutes outside the city. Multiple transactions over 6 months. Always the same day of the week. Thursdays. Always between noon and 3 p.m. Every Thursday. Like clockwork. The third page was a photo. Lauren sitting at an outdoor cafe with a man I didn't recognize. His hand covering hers on the table. Her smiling. Not a polite smile. A real smile. The kind of smile I thought she reserved for me. The timestamp was from 2 weeks earlier, on a Thursday. The exact Thursday she told me she was staying late at work on a campaign pitch. The fourth page was more texts, recent ones. "I can't wait to see you Thursday. I've been thinking about you all day. This is getting harder to hide." "I know, but we'll figure it out. I promise." I remember realizing I hadn't taken a breath in what felt like minutes. The room around me blurred. The guitar kept playing, people kept laughing, but inside my head, everything went silent. And then Lauren must have seen my face, because she came running over from across the room. "Connor," she said, grabbing my arm. "What is it? What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I didn't say anything. I just handed her the pages. She looked down. Her face went white, then red. Then her eyes filled with tears. She looked up at me, back down, up again. Her mouth opened. No sound came out. "Connor, I held up my hand. Not in anger, in control. I didn't want to hear it. Not there. Not in front of 70 people who came to celebrate us. Not in front of my mother. Not in front of her father, who had given a toast an hour earlier about how proud he was to welcome me into the family. I turned around, and I walked toward the door. No explanation, no scene, no shouting. Just me walking out of my own engagement party, with my heart in pieces and my entire future suddenly looking like a lie. I could hear Lauren calling my name behind me, her voice breaking. "Connor, wait! Please, let me explain!" I didn't stop. I pushed through the front door into the cold December air. My car was parked 2 blocks away. I got in, and I drove. I didn't even know where I was going. I just needed to be somewhere that wasn't that room. That night, I ended up at Tyler's apartment. He followed me out of the venue, tried to stop me at the door, but I told him I needed to be alone. He didn't push, just nodded and said, "Call me." An hour later, he texted, "Where are you?" I finally told him. He replied, "Door's unlocked." When I got there, I sat on his couch and stared at the wall. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just felt empty, like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left the shell. Around 11 p.m., my phone started blowing up. Text after text. Lauren's friends, bridesmaids, people I considered friends too. "What have you done? Lauren's a mess. You need to come back. She said you humiliated her. Whatever you think happened, you're wrong. She made one mistake. Don't throw away 4 years." It was unreal. Like they had decided the worst crime in the room was me leaving. Not what she did. Me leaving. I didn't respond. I turned my phone off. I tried to sleep on Tyler's couch. I couldn't. I stared at the ceiling, replaying every Thursday for the past 6 months. Every late meeting, every campaign deadline, every time she came home exhausted and went straight to bed, every time she said she wasn't in the mood, every time she smiled at me and acted like everything was fine. By morning, I had 43 missed calls. Most were from Lauren, a few from her mom, one from my mother, asking what the hell was going on because Lauren had called her at midnight sobbing, saying I abandoned her at our engagement party. I called my mom first. I explained everything. I read her some of the texts over the phone. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I told her I needed time and I'd call later. Then I turned my phone back off. Later that morning, Tyler came home with coffee and bagels. We sat in silence for a while before he finally asked, "Do you know who the guy is?" "No," I said. "Do you know who gave you the envelope?" "No." "You going to find out?" I shrugged because at that moment, I didn't even know what reality I was living in. Tyler leaned back, took a sip of coffee, and then asked, "You need a lawyer?" That hadn't even occurred to me. We weren't married, but we'd been living together for 2 years. Shared lease, shared household account, utilities, joint gym membership, her name on my car insurance. I realized this wasn't just heartbreak. This was about to be messy. That afternoon, I went back to our apartment while Lauren was out. I texted her from Tyler's phone, telling her I was coming and asking her to leave. She responded immediately, "Please, can we just talk face to face?" I didn't answer. When I got there, she was gone, but she'd left sticky notes everywhere. Bathroom mirror, refrigerator, coffee maker, all saying variations of the same thing. "I'm sorry. Please talk to me. I love you." I grabbed clothes, my laptop, important documents, and a few personal things. My grandfather's watch, a folder of paperwork. I left my key on the kitchen counter with a note. "I need space. Don't contact me." Then I walked out. I stayed with Tyler for the next week. 5 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "Connor?" The voice was hesitant. It was her, the woman from the engagement party. "Who is this?" I asked. "My name is Bryn," she said. "I'm the one who gave you the envelope." I sat down immediately. She took a breath like she'd been holding it for days. "I was seeing someone," she said. "His name is Aaron. He works at the same startup as Lauren." My stomach twisted. "He's the creative director," Bryn continued. "I found out 3 weeks ago when I went through his phone. He came home late for the 5th time that month, and I couldn't ignore it anymore." She sounded tired, like she'd been living on adrenaline. "I'm sorry for what I did at your party," she said, "but I didn't know how else to reach you." I said, "So Lauren and Aaron, they've been seeing each other since June, maybe longer. I only found the proof in November, but the messages go back." June. She'd been cheating on me before I even proposed, before I planned the perfect lakeside proposal, before I asked her father for his blessing, before I stood in front of my family and promised a future that she was already undermining. I asked Bryn, "Why didn't you just call me?" "I didn't have your number," she said. "I found your name through Lauren's Instagram. I saw the engagement party invitation she posted, and I thought if I tried to contact you privately, she'd intercept it or convince you I was lying." Then she said something that hit me hard because it was true. People don't always believe the messenger. "I panicked," Bryn admitted. "I thought if I gave you proof in person, in public, you'd have to face it." There was a pause. Then she said, softer, "I didn't want you marrying her blind." I didn't know what to say, because part of me wanted to be furious that she chose that moment. But a bigger part of me knew, if she didn't, I might have married Lauren. So all I managed was, "Thank you." Bryn exhaled like she'd been waiting for that permission to breathe. "I broke up with him," she said quietly. "That night, after I left your party, I went straight to his apartment and confronted him." "Did he admit it?" I asked. "Immediately," she said. "He said it didn't mean anything, that she was convenient, that he loved me." Bryn's voice cracked a little. "But he looked me in the eyes and lied for months. So, what does love even mean coming from him?" We hung up after that, and I sat there on Tyler's couch, staring at the wall again, but this time with one new thought looping in my head. This wasn't a mistake. This was a system. That night, I called Lauren. She picked up on the first ring. "Connor," she said, already crying. "Please, let me explain." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult her. I didn't ask why. I asked something else. "Aaron," I said, "creative director, since June." Silence. A long, heavy silence. Then she whispered, "How long have you known?" And something inside me went cold. Not because she was shocked, because she wasn't asking what was true. She was asking what I knew. "Does it matter?" I asked. She started talking fast, like she was trying to outrun the moment. "It was stupid. It didn't mean anything. I love you. I want to marry you. I want the life we planned. I ended it. I swear I ended it." I laughed. It came out bitter and sharp. "You were sleeping with him while I was planning our future," I said. She sobbed. I know. I'm so sorry." "It wasn't one mistake," I said. "It was dozens, hundreds, every Thursday for 6 months." "It was a mistake," she kept repeating, like if she said it enough times it would become true. I said, "You didn't throw away 4 years in one night. You threw it away every week in small pieces." She begged to meet in person, to explain, to answer questions. And maybe that's what she expected me to want, that dramatic scene where she cries, I soften, and we rebuild. But I could not unsee what I'd seen. So I said, "No, we're done." "You don't mean that," she whispered. "I do," I said. "Don't contact me again." And I hung up. 2 days later, I got a text from her mother. "You're making a mistake. She loves you. Don't throw away 4 years over one bad choice. People can change." I stared at the screen for a long time, because it's wild how fast people become philosophers when they want you to accept being disrespected. I blocked her mother's number. Then I blocked Lauren's number. Then I sat there feeling like I was cutting off a limb, because even when someone hurts you, your brain still remembers them as home. And that's the part nobody talks about. In mid-December, I hired a lawyer. We weren't married, but the lease and the shared household account complicated things. My lawyer, Patricia, was in her 50s, sharp, calm, and had the vibe of someone who has heard every excuse on earth and never falls for any of them. She told me to close the joint account immediately and move my portion into a separate account. I did. Lauren called me 17 times that day from a different number. Blocked. Patricia told me to document everything. Keep the envelope. Keep records. Screenshot communication. So I did. By Christmas, I moved into a small one-bedroom apartment closer to work. Bare walls, a futon Tyler loaned me. No decorations. My mom offered to come help me set up. I told her I needed to do it alone. Tyler invited me to spend Christmas with his family. I declined. I ordered Chinese food and watched old movies on my laptop. It was the loneliest Christmas I've ever had. Not because I was alone, because I realized I had been alone for a long time without knowing it. On New Year's Eve, I was scrolling through my phone when I saw a message request on Instagram. From Aaron. I almost didn't open it, but I did. He wrote a long apology. The kind of apology that's carefully worded to sound like accountability while still trying to make himself look like a decent guy. He said things like, "I take full responsibility," and "It started as friendly conversation." Then he wrote one line that made my skin crawl. "For what it's worth, she really does love you. She talked about you all the time." I stared at that sentence for a long time. Then I blocked him. But the message stayed in my mind because it didn't feel like closure. It felt like a hook. A week later, Bryn called me again. She sounded different, calmer, like she had slept. "I didn't tell you something," she said. My stomach tightened. "What?" I asked. She hesitated. "Do you remember how the texts were with someone saved as A?" "Yeah." "It wasn't just Aaron," she said. That's what I thought at first too, but I dug deeper. I found a second thread. My hands got cold. "What second thread?" Bryn took a breath. "A," she said, "wasn't a person." I sat up. "What do you mean?" "In Aaron's phone," Bryn said, "there was a group chat, 3 people, Aaron, Lauren, and someone else from their office." I blinked. "Someone else?" "Yes," Bryn said. "A coworker. Someone who helped cover it." I felt sick, because suddenly the cheating wasn't just betrayal, it was coordination. It was strategy. It was planning. Bryn continued. "They used A as a label, like a folder name. They moved conversations around, deleted things on schedules, and if one thread got risky, they shifted to a different platform." I swallowed hard. "Why would they do that?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. "So no one would ever catch them," Bryn said. And then she added the line that turned my stomach completely. "Connor, they weren't just hiding it from you. They were laughing about how easy it was." I didn't speak, because what do you say to that? It's one thing to be cheated on. It's another thing to realize you were treated like a fool in a room you weren't even in. Bryn told me she wasn't calling to torture me. She just didn't want me thinking this was an accident. "It wasn't a mistake," she said. "It was a pattern, and patterns don't stop just because someone gets caught. They stop when the person who benefits from them loses access." After we hung up, I sat there staring at the wall again, but this time, I wasn't empty. I was steady, like something in me locked into place. In mid-January, I ran into Kimberly, one of Lauren's bridesmaids, at a coffee shop near my office. She saw me, hesitated, and then walked over like she'd rehearsed what she was going to say. "Hey, Connor," she said softly. "Hey," I replied. She shifted her weight, clutching her latte like it was an emotional support animal. "Look," she said, "I know it's not my place, but Lauren's not doing well." I took a sip of my coffee. "She's been really depressed," Kimberly continued. "She barely leaves her apartment. She's seeing a therapist. She knows she messed up. She's trying to make it right." I stared at her, and what I wanted to say was, "So was I. So am I." But instead, I said something simpler.
"That's not my problem anymore."
Kimberly looked down. "I get it," she said. "I do, but she really loved you." I couldn't help it. I laughed, but not in a funny way. "She had a funny way of showing it," I said. Kimberly's face tightened like she was fighting guilt. Then she said quietly, "I told her to stop." I blinked. "What?" "Back in July," she said. "I saw them together at a restaurant. I confronted her. She swore it was just lunch, a work thing. I wanted to believe her because she was my friend. My fingers tightened around the coffee cup. "I should have said something to you," she said. "I'm sorry." I didn't even know what to do with that information. Part of me wanted to explode. Part of me wanted to thank her for at least telling the truth now. But mostly, I just felt tired because every new piece of information wasn't a shock anymore. It was confirmation. Kimberly reached out and squeezed my arm gently. Then she walked away, and I sat there thinking, how many people knew? How many people decided it wasn't their problem until it blew up publicly? It's been almost 3 months since the engagement party. Lauren and I haven't spoken since that call in December. I heard through mutual friends she quit her job at the startup in January. I also heard Erin got let go a week before that, for undisclosed reasons. Rumors were that HR got involved after the office found out about the affair. I don't know if that's true, and honestly, I don't care. Bryn reached out again in late January. We met for coffee downtown. She wanted to apologize again for how she handled it. I told her she didn't need to, because if she hadn't done what she did, I might have married Lauren. We talked for over an hour. Not about Lauren, not about Erin, about what it feels like to trust someone completely and then realize you were loving a version of them that wasn't real. Bryn told me she started therapy too. She's dating again, slowly. We aren't friends exactly, but we check in every few weeks. It's strange how life works. Sometimes the person who hands you the truth becomes the only person who understands what it costs. In February, I sold the engagement ring. I took it to 3 jewelers before I found one who gave me a fair price. I lost about 30% of what I paid. I didn't care. I used the money to book a solo trip to Colorado in March. I needed mountains. I needed quiet. I needed a place where my brain could stop replaying Thursdays. The apartment lease ends in April. Lauren agreed to let me buy her out. My lawyer handled all the paperwork. We didn't have to speak. Patricia said Lauren seemed cooperative, almost relieved. I don't know where Lauren lives now. I don't ask. I'm still angry sometimes. Not the explosive kind, the quiet kind that sits in your chest and makes it hard to trust people. But I'm working on it. I'm seeing a therapist now too. Not because I'm broken, because I don't want this to change me into someone I don't recognize. My mom asks me sometimes if I think I'll ever date again. I tell her, maybe. Not now. But maybe. People also ask if I think I'll ever forgive Lauren. And the honest answer is, I don't know. Maybe one day. Not for her. For me, so I can let go of the anger. But right now, I'm focused on moving forward. On figuring out who Connor is when he's not building a life with someone who didn't value him the way he valued her. I don't regret walking away. I regret not seeing it sooner. The phone turned face down when I entered the room. The new perfume in July, the gym membership she suddenly renewed after letting it lapse for a year. It's always clearer in hindsight. That's the thing about betrayal. It rewrites your memories like a bad editor. But I'm starting to feel like myself again. Or maybe a different version of myself. A little more cautious, but a lot more sure of what I deserve. And here's the question I can't stop thinking about. If you were in my position, would you have stayed and demanded answers in front of everyone? Or would you have done what I did? Say nothing and walk away.